Welcome back to the Perfect Season podcast now. New name, more sports coming into it soon. Yes, the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. Let's just wow. What do you have to say about this, Frankie?
Well, um, sorry for holding that up there. I had to navigate my microphone there. Anthony, I still can't believe that the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl because here's a team that came into the season. I think a lot of us, here in Cincinnati, were saying, okay, how many games do they have to win for Zach Taylor to keep his job?
I
And maybe the
remember
consent.
mid-season he was on the hot seat, right?
Um, I think I'd be naive to say he wasn't because here's a
Yeah.
team that was 5-4, but it just lost two straight games, two games they quite frankly should have won. And but I give the Bengals credit. And Zach Taylor said after the second Steelers game this season, he's like, we as coaches are allowed to improve too. And they did throughout the season. They withstood two-game losing streaks that came at, inopportune times. And here they are. They've won their last 6 games in which their starters have played. They have beaten the Raiders twice, the Steelers twice. Both those teams made the playoffs. They beat the Chiefs twice. Of course, they made the playoffs. They beat them in the regular season and the AFC Championship
At
games.
least at least we don't have to see Jackson Mahomes no more.
That too.
Jackson and Brittany.
It just speaks to the culture that's in place within Cincinnati. It speaks to Joe Burrow. It speaks to the players that they have. They have a young team, a team that's inexperienced, and yet they're in the Super Bowl.
I
And they're
know.
only going to get better from here because they have a lot of cap space. They're going to be able to spend money on free agency. They're going to get a good offensive lineman in the draft, hopefully in free agency as well. So, I mean, the city is just galvanized by what this team is doing right now.
It's amazing. I remember I was watching that game. I was watching that game. I'm like, you were down 11 at halftime. You were down 11, but you were also down 11 at halftime in the regular season against the Chiefs. And then two come from behind wins. Do you think what's your biggest worry about Super Bowl 56 and playing the Rams?
My biggest worry is definitely the offensive line of the Bengals being able to block the defensive line, the front four of the Rams, especially Aaron Donald and Von Miller and even Leonard Floyd. I just worry that Aaron Donald is going to try and wreck whatever the Bengals want to do offensively. But I will also add this, the Bengals have the ability to combat their subpar offensive line play with quick screens to Jamar Chase, get Joe Mixon involved, get a outside zone run going. So there are ways to combat what my biggest worry is. And then I'd say defensively, it's who is going to cover Cooper Kupp. I think it's going to be Mike Hilton, which I'm totally in on because he is a great slot corner. He's played fantastic throughout this entire postseason and throughout the second half of the regular season. So I think that there's going to be, and really the whole season in its entirety. So I do worry though about the Rams receivers. I do worry about being able to generate pressure from the Bengals defensive line. I mean, there are a lot of things that, how's Jamar Chase going to do against Jalen Ramsey? Is he going to completely take him out of the game? But if you take away Jamar Chase, you still have to deal with T. Higgins. The Chiefs found that out on Sunday in the AFC Championship game. So there's a lot of things they do worry about, but at the same time, I do think the Bengals have a shot in this game.
I but there I think they win. It's either going to be a high scoring game or a defensive battle matchup. It's either going to be high scoring, maybe 31-27, low scoring 17-14 defensive battle. But other than Bengals going to the Super Bowl, I know you're ecstatic or happy or whatever you want to say to describe your feeling. The Rams Niners game, that was another one that was just wow.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. I kind of
I
I
was
was
at work
watching
for
it.
both these games.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was yeah, I was in a state of I was still just in a state of so many things after the AFC Championship game. But my takeaway from the Niners Rams game is Matthew Stafford is rewriting his legacy.
Mhm.
The Rams are down 10 in the fourth quarter, and you're thinking that are the Niners actually going to beat them for a seventh consecutive time? And they didn't. Matthew Stafford made some clutch throws. Cooper Kupp is the best wide receiver in the NFL. There's no question about that. And the Rams defense, when they needed to make stops, because for a while the Niners were gashing them with runs. Debo Samuel was having a great game. George Kittle had a touchdown. The Rams defense stepped up big time in the fourth quarter. And Aaron Donald is the reason why they ended up sealing the deal with that pressure late on Jimmy Garoppolo. He forced him into one of the worst throws I've ever seen. And here the Rams are, all the star power that they have, whether Cooper Kupp, they did draft, but they traded for Stafford. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. They claimed Von Miller off of waivers. Oh, I'm sorry, they traded for Von Miller. They claimed Odell Beckham Jr. off waivers, and now they're in the Super Bowl. This is what it was supposed to be at the start of the season, and it is a reality now. And it's funny, Anthony, because remember that question that Alex asked all of us after week 1, who's the one team besides your favorite team you're most looking forward to watching this season? I said the Rams, and now they and my favorite team are playing against each other in the Super Bowl.
That's crazy. It's crazy how life is. But other than both my teams being out, one got eliminated in the first round, the other got eliminated in the second round. And other than the Super Bowl news, the other big news is that Brady retired. After 22 seasons, seven Super Bowls, could have been 9, but the Giants beat them twice. He's had an amazing career. And it's gonna be interesting this offseason to see what Tampa does. Now, I still have my ways of saying they're just gonna sign a veteran for a 1 or 2 year deal, learn behind Trask, and then next year it's Trask's turn to learn. That's just what I think. But Trask is still young. He still needs 1 more year to learn and everything. And then I think, give him 2023, he's ready. He's ready to go, ready to make his first career start. All this, that, whatever, you name it. Now, everyone's saying bring back Jameis. Not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Jameis is not a good quarterback. Give him a chance on another team. I just don't think Jameis will be in Tampa ever again. And Bruce Arians doesn't want to deal with that. And Bruce Arians is on the end of his coaching career. I give him 2 more seasons of the head coach in Tampa, and then we get a new head coach.
It is going to be interesting to see if they bring in a quarterback to be sort of a bridge guy to, Kyle Trask, or if they end up drafting another quarterback in a couple years down the road. But I do think the one thing that Tampa Bay has going for them is that whole NFC South division is not very good.
No, it's not.
They're going to
the Saints don't have a quarterback. Saints have Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, Ian Book. The Falcons have depleted Matt Ryan, and the Panthers have Cam and Sam Darnold. And now Tampa has Brady that retired. I also have my opinions of my 4 quarterbacks that I want in Tampa in free agency, possibly Jimmy G, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, or Mariota.
And those are all good options. I don't think you want Mariota because I don't think he's that good.
Mariota.
You would not?
I would. I was one of the fellow people that wanted to draft him over Jameis.
So you wanted Mariota over Jameis in 2015?
Yes, I did.
I just think.
Here's my thing, though. Here's my thing. Mariota, he took the Titans to the playoffs. And he's a scrambler quarterback. Scrambler quarterbacks, even though they don't throw for a lot of passing yards or whatever, they're still good quarterbacks. Look at Jameis. Yeah, he was a Heisman quarterback winner in college, but what's the one thing that everyone didn't like about him? And not one thing everyone didn't like about him, but what was the one thing that he always did? And that was turn the ball over and make poor decisions. Imagine you're a quarterback and going to games and hearing this over the loudspeakers: 103 picks in 63 games, going 30 for 30, or 30 for 33, actually. I should be stated correctly. His off the field decisions, all of that leads up not to making a good quarterback. Look at Joe Burrow for crying out loud. He won a Heisman, a national championship, and now he has a chance to win a Super Bowl. You would want someone like that on your team, or someone like Tom Brady, someone with leadership, someone that knows what they're doing and everything, not someone that goes off the field, makes poor decisions, steals crab legs in the Publix up in Tallahassee. I just don't think Jameis is a franchise proven quarterback.
Well, Jameis did come in with several off the field issues, but I think, I haven't heard him recently. I don't
You
think
haven't heard anything recently just yet.
I can't recall since he came into the NFL. The thing about Jameis Winston is
He's
he's weirdly productive, and what I mean by that is, yes, he's going to throw for a lot of yards. Yes, he's going to throw for a lot of touchdowns, but he's also going to turn the ball over. There's no structure to his game. Like, he is a very loose-ended quarterback. Like, someone needs to put up some guardrails and say, hey, listen, this is how you play quarterback. Now, I will say this. Sean Payton was probably,
Sean,
the best head coach he's ever had.
yeah. Besides, Jameis came into the era.
Sean Payton is, he was Drew Brees' head coach for 15 years.
Jameis also came into Tampa with Dirk Cutter as our head coach and Lovie Smith.
Yeah. But notice what you saw with Jameis Winston this year. I remember there was if you read Peter King's Football Morning in America column every Monday morning, and the one thing he touched on was the best throw from Jameis Winston in week 1 was one where he just threw the ball away. And I'm like, what? He's throwing the ball away. That doesn't get you anything. But
that's majority of the time that what he does. It's either that. I still remember watching him in preseason. In preseason, he was going down to get a sack, and he just threw the ball up in the air on the opponent's
and
5-yard line,
and sometimes
a pick. I would not want that as my. He's not a good quarterback.
Yeah, sometimes it's just better to take the sack if you know you're going to get sacked. And I translate it back to what we saw this week and what we've seen throughout the postseason. And Joe Burrow, the one thing that he's gotten better at is if the play's not there, he just takes a sack. It's frustrating, but at the same time, hey, you're not turning the ball
y'all
over.
got sacked 9 times against Tennessee.
Yeah, sometimes you have to live to fight another day. Like, there was a play in the wild card round against the Raiders. You might remember Joe Burrow took a sack. The Bengals had to settle for 3, but there was nothing there. He knew he was getting sacked, so he just, took the sack. The Bengals got 3 points, and those 3 points were critical at the time.
Yeah, sometimes it's just better to get the 3 points. That's my opinion.
Absolutely.
Like, I'd rather go on a drive and get points than get no points.
Yeah, and that goes back to, Anthony, the fact that it pays to have a good kicker on your team.
The Bengals took best kicker in the league.
Yeah, the Bengals took a gamble. I don't know if you want to call him the best kicker in the league. I would still say Justin Tucker.
To be.
Potentially, yes. He's only been around for 1 year, so I don't know if you can say the best kicker. Like that would have been after Patrick Mahomes' first full season. We said, well, he's the best quarterback in the NFL, and maybe he had some more to it.
That Mahomes Allen competition is going to be the next AFC Brady Manning.
But Joe Burrow has an AFC championship.
And then Burrow also has that. Yeah, I'd Burrow in the conversation. It's only his second year in the league.
Correct.
He's gonna be a good quarterback. He's gonna be the Bengals franchise QB.
Yes. Joe Burrow and Josh Allen have the same number of playoff wins, if you can believe that.
That's crazy.
And Allen has played in double the amount of playoff games that Joe Burrow has.
Yeah.
Burrow.
Look, what a good championship game would have been Bengals Bills instead of Bengals Chiefs. But going into that game, going into the Bengals Chiefs game, it shows what the Bengals could do. It shows that they're a good team. They're a great team that could beat the Chiefs were the number 1 seed, right?
The Chiefs were the 2 seed.
2 seed.
Yeah.
And look what they beat. They beat the 2 seed.
The fraudulent Titans were the number 1 seed.
Look what happened to them. Tannehill will not be in Tennessee next year.
I don't think the Titans can win with Ryan Tannehill, and I'm a Ryan Tannehill fan. I was one. I think I can see it.
I can see Tannehill or Wentz also.
Would you?
Wentz on a 1 or a 2 year deal.
Carson Wentz, for as good as he is, and I've always been a Carson Wentz defender. For as good as Carson Wentz is, I feel like there's some red flags to him because
He has
he's
his
not
ups and his downs.
he's not vaccinated. He's not the most open guy. He's not the
Well,
he's no
what do you mean like ups and downs? He's not vaccinated.
what I mean by red flags is he's not vaccinated, so he uh
Like
that just comes across to me as, I don't like that. But let's
I'm
put that aside.
yeah,
I
I'm
just
not trying. Yeah, we're not trying to make this too political, but
yeah,
I feel
let's put
like
that aside.
they
Let's
they
put that
pushed
aside.
that. Yeah,
But he isn't. So I don't think that means he can participate in in-person weekly meetings.
yeah. I thought they changed the rules where it's like, I know they changed the rules on it, but that's a story for another day.
I'm not sure, but I just feel like because there was that whole story of Kirk Cousins, and then I just feel like if you're a quarterback, you want to do some things that show
Right.
your teammates, hey, you're a leader, like getting vaccinated for COVID-19. Joe Burrow has, I'm not sure if any other quarterback that hasn't. I'm sure Matthew Stafford is.
Probably
So
because he lives in California.
correct. Well, okay, there you go.
And
So
look at it like this though. The Super Bowl's in California. Super Bowl's in California.
yeah,
And you're surprised you haven't seen any restrictions on Super Bowl this year, even though there was a restriction on it last year because it was crazy, whatever,
yeah.
COVID
Well,
year. But
LA County has said that if you are attending the Super Bowl, you must wear a mask inside the stadium and you have to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test.
like at Raymond James, they say masks are optional. And we live in Florida. I live
Yeah,
in
but
Florida. The best state.
that's because your governor's Ron DeSantis
Yeah, Ron DeSantis is the best governor.
because he's more relaxed about COVID than he is with Gavin Newsom in California. But
Yeah.
you saw the governor of California at the NFC Championship game not wearing a mask. So they say you
Right,
have to
like
wear a
our
mask.
mayor of Tampa, the mayor of Tampa, she canceled Gasparilla 2020 because of COVID and mask mandates, and then she goes to a Lightning game, violates her own freaking policy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on from there.
Yeah,
So Tampa Bay's next quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, is someone I've always been a fan.
Tannehill's an option.
I've been a defender of him because
Yeah,
because there was a stretch from week 7 of 2019 to week 6 of 2020 where he won a lot of games, and believe it or not, his numbers were actually pretty prolific.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, Anthony, and you look at the AFC, if you don't have a quarterback with that it factor and a quarterback that can put up some numbers, I'm talking like at least 250 yards every
Yeah.
week and 2 to 3 touchdowns, you're not going to win games.
Remember, the Bucks run through the AFC next year. They play your division.
They do.
The Bengals come to Tampa. We'll be at that game. The
We will.
Ravens come to Tampa. I'll be at that. My buddy's a Ravens fan. So they play that AFC division. I know. I forgot the other division, but they played that division. So you got some tough opponents, and that looking at that division,
You'll play the NFC West next year, so you'll get Seattle, San Francisco, LA, and Arizona.
Oh yeah. Kyler Murray. Okay, but here's my take. Besides talking about Tampa and Tom Brady retiring, if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay and Jordan Love is the future, God help us all. But Jordan Love, he still has his ups and his downs.
You're not gonna do much with Jordan Love.
No. Look at the NFC North. You have the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions. All teams that are struggling at quarterback position. The Bears have a new head coach. The Vikings just have a new announced head coach. The Packers, if whatever happens with the quarterback situation, God knows what happens. And then you got the Lions. That's anyone's. You got the Lions.
No one's talking about the Lions.
Watch the Lions win that division next year.
Exactly. Like Dan Campbell, love that guy.
Watch the Lions win that division.
Say what you want about the Lions. You know what? They have a team
they're gonna win the division.
Every single week they compete.
They do.
They
got 3 wins this year.
Yeah.
It could have been
a lot more games they could have won
on silly plays.
They remind me of what the Bengals were in 2019, a team that wasn't very good. They only won 2 games, but man, they were competitive in a lot of them.
Right. That's how the Bucks were until we got Brady, and look at what happened then.
Okay, so let's talk about let's get back to what we saw this week
Brady.
in the conference championship game. So the Bengals and their defensive adjustments in the second half were fantastic. But obviously the Chiefs lost this game, and Patrick Mahomes was not Patrick Mahomes in the second half.
Right. He threw two interceptions. I was at work, so I didn't watch the game. I just
Yeah.
heard from neutral
And
people.
and what was and their play calling at the end of the first half where they decided to go for instead of kick a field goal, which I'm all in favor of. You have the best quarterback in the NFL, or at least so we think. And he throws a pass behind the line of scrimmage, and Tyreek Hill, with no timeouts, mind you, the Chiefs don't have a timeout. He gets tackled before the end zone, in bounds, and the Chiefs don't score, and that kind of opened the door for the
That's when
Bengals.
you realize. That's when you realize should have just kicked the field goal.
They should have. I mean, look, there's a fine line, and I think there's two sides to the story of how aggressive should a coach be, how aggressive should a team be. There's a fine line between being aggressive and then just being reckless. Like Brandon Staley with the Chargers, Anthony, you watched that final regular season game against the Raiders. He's going for it on 4th and 1 from his
Right.
own 18-yard line. Like at the now if he gets it, he's being praised, but he doesn't get it, and it's like, okay, you probably should have punted. He gave the Raiders 3 points. The Raiders won the game by 3 points in overtime.
Right. Simple
Like
mistakes like that. It's like,
yeah, like John Harbaugh going for 2-point conversions.
yeah.
I mean, if they work, great. If they don't, though, okay, and then we're gonna call you into
And
question.
Harbaugh staying out of Michigan.
Jim Harbaugh is staying in Michigan. I think
that's good. Look at what he's built there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I don't think it would have been good if he left the year after Michigan had hit their best season under him.
Mhm.
So
But
yeah, Anthony, I just think as the Bengals did win that game on Sunday
they
because
did win
Joe
that game.
Burrow was
came from behind.
fantastic. Yeah,
They
you
came.
come back from down 18 on the road at Arrowhead in a conference championship
And
game.
Arrowhead's one of the hardest stadiums to play in,
Exactly.
other than Seattle.
See, I mean, Seattle fans will tell you their stadium's the hardest stadium to play in as a road team. Kansas City fans will tell you theirs is.
The same with not the Raiders. But if they were still at the Coliseum, if they were at the Coliseum, then probably. And then other news in the NFL of this week, head coaching changes. McDaniels to the Raiders, Dabble to
Love
the
the hire.
Giants.
I love the hire.
To who? The Raiders?
I love the McDaniels hire. I think it's gonna.
I would have kept Bisaccio. He's looking at the Jags are interviewing him also.
I would have kept Rich Bisaccia too, but I think Josh McDaniels, if there's one head coach who's proven, I mean, what more did Josh McDaniels have to prove as an offensive coordinator in New England that he's head coaching worthy? I mean, he won in 3 Super Bowls in this tenure with the Patriots. He took the Patriots, he guided the Patriots with a rookie quarterback to the playoffs this year. And Derek Carr kind of reminds me of Mac Jones because he's not flashy.
Right.
But what Derek Carr is, he completes a lot of passes. He's got, a good group of weapons around him. I think if the Raiders can get their run game going, then
they can get their offensive line.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that was a big problem for them this season. And you saw it in the playoff game against the Bengals. You saw it in the regular season game against the Bengals. You saw it in other games. And when you play in a division that has the Chiefs have their defensive line, which is really good. Chris Jones, Jared Reed, Melvin Ingram. The Chargers have Joey Bosa and some other names on their defensive line, some other players. And then Denver's got Bradley Chubb. I mean, this division is going to be
that division's going to be rocking. It is.
Now, let me ask you this. So, Kansas City, I said this in a little audio recording for this podcast on Tuesday. Kansas City, Anthony, I don't think it's been the same since losing the Super Bowl last year. They're not as invincible. They're not as vulnerable.
They started 0-4. They started 1-4.
No, they started 3-4.
3-4. 3-4.
3-4. Well, they were 1-2. I mean, this team was not performing well at the start of the season.
It's not what it used to be.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you think that Kansas City will win another Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes?
That's a tough one. That's a tough question. It just depends. One, coaching staff. Two, players. And if you got a good team, we give it a couple years, maybe like 3 or 4 more years, and see if they win the Super Bowl. Because right now they should have been in that. I know you're gonna hate me saying this. If they kicked that field goal, they would have been in the Super Bowl.
I do think that game would have turned out differently.
It would have.
Of course it would.
If they kicked that field goal. If they kicked that
Yeah.
field goal and Mahomes made better decisions.
It wasn't necessarily the stop at the end of the first half that made me think the Bengals could win the game. It was when the Bengals defense started getting stops, consecutive stops.
Interceptions.
Yeah, the interception by BJ Hill. And then what really stood out to me was after Joe Burrow throws an interception, which that could have been a huge turning point in the game.
Disaster.
The Chiefs don't even cross midfield. Trey Hendrickson with the huge sack on third down. So I just think, Anthony, and we've seen this with other teams in NFL history. Teams that win a Super Bowl and we think they're going to become a dynasty, and then they lose a Super Bowl or they lose earlier in the playoffs, and it's such a bad loss that they never get back to where they were. And
right.
I think about, excuse
Look
me,
at
yes,
Patrick
Mahomes, is locked up for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Look at Tampa
how long are Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce going to be around?
Once they hit free agency, they want the money.
Yeah, and Eric Bieniemy, for as great as he is as an offensive coordinator,
he's going to be in head coach somewhere else.
He wants a head coaching job. So how invested is he going to be?
Jacksonville
into being an offensive coordinator? Maybe that begs the question: do you bring in some new blood? The Chiefs have to, I think, reignite their running game. If the Chiefs get a run game going, I mean, they can be really good.
Yeah. They have a good running back.
I shouldn't say really good. They are really good right now. I'll say they could be a very, very difficult offense to stop.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the Bengals, what makes the Bengals hard to stop is they are a pass-centric team, but Joe Mixon can beat you, and he doesn't have to rush for 100 yards. Joe Mixon only has 3 100-yard-plus rushing games this season. But what he's good at is he's good as a runner, and he's good as a receiver. And if the Bengals use him that way in the Super Bowl, that can keep the Rams defense on their toes.
Here's one. Here's a little take for you. If Russell Wilson leaves Seattle, does Pete Carroll retire?
I think so.
Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll.
I don't know about retire, but I think. Well, I mean, he is
getting up there in age.
It's hard to believe that Pete Carroll's almost 70.
He's almost 70? I thought he was already 70.
Or he may be
72.
70.
I thought he was 72.
I think he's 69 or 70.
Yeah. But Russell Wilson, he's one of those other potential free agents also. Look, he's Russell. I want Wilson to Tampa. That I'm saying it. Wilson to Tampa on a 2-year deal. 2-year, not that much money. So we can still re-sign Jensen and Godwin and Whitehead.
I feel like with Russell Wilson, what it is he was hurt this year, so people kind of forgot about him. But when he's at his best, he is a top 5 quarterback in this league.
Oh yeah, he's the most underrated quarterback there is.
He might be the most underrated quarterback in NFL history.
That's what I think. Has he won an MVP?
No, and he's never even been close.
He should be up in that conversation. When the Seahawks were in those back-to-back Super Bowls, like those 2 or 3 back-to-back ones, Russell Wilson should have been up there talks MVP this, MVP that, but he wasn't. He's an underrated quarterback. And if he comes to Tampa, I'm just saying, because Tampa needs a quarterback, he could possibly be in those talks if he has a good season and if he plays well. I would love to see Wilson to Tampa.
My thing, and we talk about, who's going to play in Tampa Bay. Yeah. If Aaron Rodgers goes to Tennessee, think about the balance of power with quarterbacks. Like, you'd have all the great quarterbacks in the AFC, because the NFC, now that Tom Brady's retired and you don't know the futures of Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson.
And Drew Brees is gone.
Correct. Who's the best quarterback in the NFC right now? Matthew Stafford?
That's correct. And Matthew Stafford's old.
in his 13th season, but he's
No,
not showing
like
his
age
age.
wise, he's a little up there.
No,
Like
he's not
he's in
showing his age just yet.
not yet,
He's in his
but
mid 30s.
I mean, you also can put Kyler Murray in that conversation.
I would put Kyler in there, but
But
Kyler, like,
Kyler, not Jimmy G.
no.
Trey Lance, give him a couple years. Give him a couple years.
I
Because
would put Dak in
he
there.
was still a
Dak
rookie.
Prescott.
Nah. Who else? Kirk Cousins.
Kirk is interesting because I've always thought he's better than what his
He's
critics say.
underrated.
Yeah, but the problem with Kirk Cousins is it's like if he doesn't win you significant games, he's only won you one playoff game in his
Yeah.
career. He's only started in 3 career playoff games.
Right. And
This is what Tom Brady does. Tom Brady was so successful that, you know, if you start like Kirk Cousins has only started 3 playoff games, it's just like, oh well, what good is that doing? Like Tom Brady has set the bar so high.
when Jalen Hurts
Like,
is definitely not in that conversation.
No, not yet. I think Jalen Hurts has
No.
potential.
He does have potential. He does. I would 100% agree with you.
Okay, so
I
let me
pulled
ask you
up the NFC South teams. I forgot half them.
the first your first thoughts on the Super Bowl is what?
This year's Super Bowl?
Yeah.
2 things. One's just a random thought. One's just like that doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. Second, which one do you want first? The one that doesn't matter or the one that matters?
Say the one that does matter.
It's gonna be an interesting Super Bowl. Both quarterbacks are going for their first Super Bowl ring. Here's my take on it. If the Super Bowl was Rams Chiefs in a different location, let's just say it was in Houston or Dallas, I'd be rooting for Matthew Stafford. But why I'm rooting for the Bengals, I love Joe Burrow's story. Jamar Chase is amazing. Vernon Hargraves, he was a former Buck, now he's a Bengal. He's had potential, but I like the story of Joe Burrow. Tore an ACL in the first regular season game. In the first season, he's a quarterback. The second year, going to the Super Bowl. Look at that, and you have Jamar Chase too, and that duo is good. And I just like the Bengals winning this. I don't get me wrong, Matthew Stafford's a great quarterback. I want to see him get a ring, but I don't want to see what the Rams do what the Bucks did last year.
So I'm gonna throw this stat in there. So since the 2003 season,
The Bengals.
the AFC quarterback in the Super Bowl has been either outside of 2012 when Joe Flacco went. Remember him?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
okay.
Those days.
So the AFC quarterback has been either Brady, Peyton Manning, Big Ben, or Patrick Mahomes.
That's crazy.
So there is some new blood in this.
It's definitely gonna be interesting.
It is, and the Rams are playing in their home stadium. This is their
But
second
they're the
Super Bowl
away
appearance
team though.
in 4 years. The Bengals have yet to win the Super Bowl, so it just
But you know what would have been funny? You remember the first 2 Bengals Super Bowls?
I wasn't alive for them, but I know about them.
Against the Niners. The first 2 were against the Niners. You both lost, and by like 5 or 4 points or whatever. If the 49ers won that game, it would have been a Niners-Bengals Super Bowl for the 3rd time for the Bengals.
It would have been, and that's what I think you and I both thought the Niners were going to win that game. But it's new blood in terms of the Super Bowl matchup because it's not Brady or Mahomes.
It's not Brady, Mahomes, Manning, or Big Ben.
Rodgers. Yeah, exactly.
Rodgers.
I
find it interesting.
Yeah, and it's 2 quarterbacks, one who's only in his 2nd year, one who's in his 13th season, but finally is on a team that has given him an opportunity to play in significant games, win playoff games. And I'm not saying the Rams are here with Matthew Stafford. I'm saying they're here because of Matthew Stafford.
Right, Matthew Stafford going in. Remember, the Rams traded away their picks. They traded away their picks. They're all in for the Super Bowl. It's win or bust.
Yeah. But let me ask you this, and I'm going to ask Peo this question on Saturday. Let me ask you this: if the Rams lose the Super Bowl and Sean McVay will be now would be 0-2 in Super Bowls,
Remember
do
their first Super
question?
Bowl. Remember their first Super Bowl. It was punt, 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 field goal, punt, punt,
Yeah,
punt.
well, they were up against the Patriots, but but Sean McVay would then be 0-2 in Super Bowls and losing to one of his former assistant coaches in Zach Taylor. Do questions about his legacy and how good and how great of a head coach is he really start to bubble at the surface a little bit?
I mean, McVay is a young head coach. He is young. He's not even 40 yet.
But he's in his fifth season.
He's in his fifth season as the Ram. 2 Super Bowls in 5 seasons. That's astonishing.
Yeah, but if the Rams win, then we
If the
start talking
Rams
about his.
win, that would be astonishing. And McVay keeps his job. Keeps his job for another couple of years, like maybe
Well,
4 or 5 years.
he's gonna keep it regardless. But I'm saying if the Rams
But
win,
if they don't win the Super Bowl, and Zach Taylor and Burrow ride off into the sunset together as Super Bowl champions and go into Disney World, let's just say, I still think I still have faith in McVay. I think he'll be fine.
he'll be fine regardless.
Oh yeah,
But
he'll be fine. But
let
like,
me ask you this question. Let me ask you
okay,
this question. What would be a better story? LeBron coming home to bring home a championship to Cleveland, or Joe Burrow, an Ohio boy, an Ohio kid getting drafted by the Bengals, and he brings a Super Bowl championship to Cincinnati?
that's a tough one because like I have a friend that's a Cavs fan and a LeBron fan, but I think just what Joe Burrow's gone through, torn ACL, 2-14 start to the first regular season, now Super Bowl, and I think the Joe Burrow story is more meaningful.
I think so too, because my aunt mentioned this to me last night. She's like, "Yeah, LeBron left Cleveland and then came
The
back."
thing is,
And I
if LeBron never left Cleveland, like let's just say he was with Cleveland forever, then I would maybe say LeBron and Cleveland. But LeBron has team hopped. He went Cleveland, Miami, Miami, Cleveland, and now he's with the Lakers. The Lakers won one championship with
exactly.
they're
And
not going to win a championship again.
I would say this because when I always said LeBron left Cleveland because he was 25 when he did. He didn't know any better. He was not as mature as he is now. He wanted to go do something for himself, which was win a championship. The Cavs didn't give him what he needed in order to do that. So he said, I want to go play with Dwayne Wade. I want to bring Chris Bosh with me. And he went to Miami for 4 years and he won 2 championships and went to 4 NBA finals. Then his maturity was much better after those 4 years. He had gotten what he wanted individually, but then he wanted to go back home to his hometown and fulfill a promise to bring a championship to Cleveland, and he did. But if you look at it that way, then you say LeBron. But if you look at it from he had to leave Cleveland because Joe Burrow at age 25 is more mature than LeBron was at age 25. I do
Sure.
feel comfortable saying that. LeBron was a superstar. He carried himself well. But he just didn't understand his place and hit the meaning in Cleveland. So I think about it. Joe Burrow understands what he is, what he represents Cincinnati, or how who he is to the city of Cincinnati. So maybe Joe Burrow winning a Super Bowl would be more of a hero's journey than LeBron bringing a championship to Cleveland.
That's what I think. Because only thing is, LeBron has team hop the majority of the times. And no offense, yeah, he's a good player, but everyone needs to stop comparing him to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant because Jordan is the greatest of all time, hands down. That's my opinion. Everyone has their own opinions, but my opinion is LeBron's not the greatest of all time. And I honestly think that when the Bengals win the Super Bowl, hopefully no jinx, knock on wood, whatever, Joe Burrow's gonna get that
Wait,
big time.
you're picking the Bengals to win? I take it.
I told you I'm picking the Bengals to win. I
Interesting.
want I wanted the Bengals to win. When they won, I told you I want them to win.
No,
I
but
told
I think I just think this Super Bowl has a lot of new blood. There's a lot of great
it's an all
storylines.
animal Super Bowl.
Someone locally here in Cincinnati said it best. There's no villain in this game. Like you don't
No,
hate anybody in this game. You don't hate Burrow. You don't hate Stafford. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is a polarizing player. I'm not a, I'm not. A, I'm not a, 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 Um, like there's no one on the Bengals that you hate. There's no one on the
No,
Rams that you hate.
besides Ramsey
Aaron Donald's
sometimes.
a superstar player, but he's a very humble player. He carries himself well. Von Miller has, been in the NFL for a long time. He hasn't.
Very.
Yeah, and he's come to LA and he's been, a really good player. Odell Beckham maybe, but even he, Anthony, gets claimed by gets claimed by the Rams off of waivers, and he's been really valuable to them.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah, and you're not hearing anything come out of the Rams, the Rams corner of him, being a distraction.
No, that's
No.
now everyone's like, I do think Odell's a good great wide receiver. He does also deserve a ring, what he's been through. But I think it would still be more meaningful if the Bengals got this win.
It would. Because if the Rams win, then yeah, all the moves they made would have paid off. And I do want to see success
I do want to
for
see
them.
Stafford get a ring.
I think they've already succeeded. It's hard to win a Super Bowl.
It's very hard.
But of course, for me, I want to see the Bengals win the Super Bowl because I've been a fan of them my whole life.
Same. Yeah, well, not same with that, but you know what I mean.
Say
I
that
just
again.
want to see. I want to see someone different. That's what I'm trying to say.
And you will. I mean, the Rams haven't won a Super Bowl since they were in St. Louis in 1999. The
The
Bengals have never
Bengals
won the Super
never
Bowl.
won it.
Correct.
Now, I got a question for you. Totally, just it's about football. But if you were to buy, if let's say, do you all have Goodwill up there?
Correct.
Say you go to Goodwill, you find a football jersey, and let's just say it's like, oh, this was the example I used yesterday. If it's a Matthew Stafford Detroit Lions original jersey, and you wear it in the off season, or not to the Super Bowl, but like you just wear it in general, but you're not a fan of the Lions or the Rams if you're a Stafford fan, but you just have it to collect and everything, are you a bandwagon?
No,
Thank you. Thank you. I posed that to my friends because
no.
I want to collect jerseys. I want to collect jerseys. I have I'm gonna frame my vintage.
You'll get called that because unfortunately perception
Yeah.
is reality. But if you
But
know
like
you're
if
not, then
you
you're not.
no, I'm not like I have 3 football jerseys, 2 that I wear, and one I'm gonna start framing up. The Vincent Jackson signed one. I have a Devin White and Derek Carr jersey. That's it. And I think if you get a jersey like that of any player, you're not a bandwagon. You're collecting jerseys.
You asked me this question earlier this week. 2 jerseys that you would get that are not on your favorite team.
Russell Wilson or
Okay.
Russell or Matthew Stafford. I like Stafford's story.
Yeah, and his wife
And the other
also
one,
overcame a brain tumor, so you got to respect that.
and the other one, Peyton Manning,
Colts or Broncos?
Colts.
Okay. And then
I
the
don't
two.
like that orange look.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm not. I've never been a fan of
I do,
the.
but I do like their throwback jerseys.
Yeah, those are cool. I will give you that.
Or Brett Favre jersey.
I am assuming from the Packers.
Packers.
My 2 would be a Lamar Jackson jersey.
Lamar's a astonishing player.
Yeah, I've always been a
I
fan
want
of
to
him.
see
And
Lamar.
even though the Ravens play in the Bengals division and Burrow's gonna have to face him twice a year or so too with the Bengals.
And another jersey I would get, Drew Brees. He's a great quarterback.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best of all
Despite
time.
being in same division.
And my second jersey that I would get is also on the Saints, Alvin Kamara.
What about an Alex Smith?
Yeah, but what is that? I mean, yeah, Alex Smith is an inspiration. His
Yeah,
story's
look at his
incredible.
story. Look at his story.
What he overcame is spectacular.
He was almost one-legged.
Yeah. Crazy to think. But no, I'm still going Lamar Jackson, maybe a black Lamar Jackson jersey. And then I would also go with Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, the Kamara's a great running back. Don't get me wrong. Now when he's a free agent, he is not re-signing with the Saints. I will tell you that.
So where do you see him going?
I think he gets out of the NFC South. to a team that needs a running back. I could see him going to like a lower level team right now, possibly the Jets or the Giants, if they offer him the money.
If Russell Wilson stays in Seattle, I can see him going there.
Or wherever they do need a running back.
Can you imagine?
I would say the
Can
Raiders. I
you
would say the
imagine if
Raiders, but
can you imagine
they
if the
have
Rams
Josh
got him?
Jacobs. The Rams?
Yeah.
It's possible. It's
I mean,
possible.
can you imagine an
What
offense
about the
of Matthew
Lions?
Stafford, Alvin Kamara, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Robert Woods, Odell Beckham Jr.?
And Tyler Higbee?
Yeah, and then combine that with a really solid offensive line.
That would just be nonstop powerhouse.
Yeah, it'd be pretty difficult to
I
stop.
could see him going to Arizona,
Yeah, but they have James Conner.
but every other down running back.
Although I'm not sure
Kamara's,
what James Conner's contract is.
yeah, that is true. I think Kamara's a free agent after this season, this next season.
But the Cardinals already have a quarterback who's essentially a running back as well.
Yeah, so do the Ravens.
Okay, so maybe Kamara goes to
Miami.
no, who would want to go to Miami right now? I can see Kamara going to Buffalo, give the Bills a strong running game. I can see him going to Atlanta. Yeah, I don't know if he would go in division, but it's interesting because I've always been a big Kamara fan. I love the way he plays. He's electric. He's a big part of
Now here's my take. Here's my take.
You know what else, Anthony? I was wondering about. Is Michael Thomas going to come back?
Is Calvin Ridley going to come back?
You do wonder those things.
They both stepped away from. They both stepped away from football.
I think people are underestimating the Saints. I understand they don't have a quarterback, but they have a lot of playmakers when all of them are there. Kamara, Thomas, their offensive line's really solid.
Hear me
their
out
offensive
on
line's
this.
really solid. Yeah.
With Jacksonville getting a new head coach, say it's Byron Leftwich or whoever else by
Which it should be. I don't know why they wouldn't.
It should be Leftwich. I'm like 90% sure he is already the head coach, but it hasn't been released yet. If Byron Leftwich is their head coach and Tampa loses Godwin, because if he doesn't resign in Tampa, do you see Godwin going to Jacksonville because of Byron Leftwich?
Could happen.
And if they get protection, if Jacksonville gets protection in the draft and free agency, is Jacksonville a playoff team?
I don't know.
And they get Travis Etienne.
Yeah, but Anthony, the AFC is loaded with teams right now. Like you have to. Okay, so the first step to getting to the playoffs is winning your division
or wild card.
For as many, win your division first, because then you don't have to worry about being. Because if you don't win your division, there's only 3 wild card berths for 12 teams, 12 other teams in the conference. So can the Jaguars win the AFC South? No, because Tennessee is going to be really good, regardless of who their quarterback is. Their roster's built to win a division, at least a division title. We saw that this year, even though they had a slew of injuries. Indianapolis, I think, is going to be competitive, but I think Jacksonville is going to win a few more games this year than they did last year. If you remember, if you remember, like I know people love to give crap to Urban Meyer for how he did there. They beat the Bills.
They did beat the Bills, but
and they played and they were very competitive against the Bengals, who are going to the Super Bowl.
They were competitive against a lot of teams.
Yeah, they were up by 9 on the Cardinals. They kept it somewhat close with Denver, or they were competitive in that game against Denver. They beat the Colts, and they should have beaten them. They could have beaten them up in Indianapolis as well. I mean, it's just they need a culture change. And if you want to do that, go out and get Byron Leftwich and make him your head coach.
Get Byron Leftwich. I believe
there's no reason why they shouldn't. He played there he was a starting quarterback for them. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks in franchise history. I mean, there are many. I mean, probably the greatest they've ever had is Mark Brunell.
Yeah.
And then I would say Leftwich. David Garrard had his magic there too for a little while. Blake Bortles also had a good run in 2017,
Yeah, Florida,
but
Florida.
they need, if you have this generational talent in Trevor Lawrence,
The
like,
Jags, their opponents this next season is at home. Dallas, Giants, Ravens, Broncos, Raiders. I'll be there. Texans, Colts, Titans away. The now Washington Commanders, which we'll get into that next. The Jets, Lions,
do we have to
Chiefs,
get into? Okay, yeah, the Commanders.
Chiefs, Chargers, Eagles, Texans, Colts, Titans.
I don't know. Let's not make this about the Jaguars because this. I mean, the Super Bowl is happening this week.
Yeah, I know. But
Um,
the Commanders, out of all names there could have out of all the names there could have been, you go with the Commanders.
I don't have a reason to like it right now.
No, I mean
The
jerseys are
uniforms, the uniforms look really cool though.
mid.
I will say that.
I mean on their freaking helmet it's a W. The majority of the time they take L's.
Yeah, and the W looks like a W from Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, if we're being honest.
But here's my thing. You the command it's just like how can you get behind you? What can you even chant? You can't chant let's go Commanders, let's go commies, or stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
just there
I
there
mean,
were so many,
it's
my
gonna
personal
get,
opinion,
I'm
there
gonna
were
have to get
so
used
many
to it.
better names.
I mean, I didn't like Washington football team, but then I kind of eventually did.
It grew on you eventually.
It did.
At first, I didn't like it at first.
I don't I can't find a reason for me to like it. That's what I'll say.
It's nothing catchy. Like, I mean, yeah, it's DC and look at you try and base it off your city and everything, but like look at I don't know, look at like the
Yeah.
Seahawks or something. That's somewhat of a catchy name.
Okay. Final point of today is this.
Mhm.
So we just talked about the Jaguars.
Yeah.
And if they're going to change the culture, it's going to be the head coach that does it. Because Trevor Lawrence, you know, he didn't have a good enough rookie season for him to be the guy that's going to change the culture. Joe Burrow did. And you want to know
Yeah.
something I thought about recently, or actually yesterday? So Joe Burrow said after the Bengals beat the Steelers in week 12, second time. And Joe Danneman, the sports director at Fox 19 here in Cincinnati, asked Joe Burrow after the game, Joe, what does it mean to you that you guys have beaten the Steelers twice now in one season and beaten them convincingly? And he said, it means we're 2-0 against them. We have bigger aspirations than beating the Steelers.
All right.
And 5 years ago, Domata Peko, a former Bengals defensive tackle, said, oh, yeah, whenever we beat the Steelers, it's a party in Cincinnati. Well, okay, now it's expected that you beat the Steelers. Now it's a party if you go to the Super Bowl. See, there are bigger expectations with Joe Burrow as the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's the culture change.
Burrow's the franchise there.
Absolutely. Oh, he's Joey Franchise. And Anthony,
He
I think we have run the gamut on today's show.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a great show. Definitely talked about a lot. Had some iffy debates, but and then the Super Bowl is also going to be an all animal Super Bowl. Bengals, Rams.
Yep. Cow and a tiger.
And what wins in that fight? And it's funny. Joe Burrow was a tiger from LSU.
True. Yeah. Bayou
But
Bengal turns Cincinnati Bengal.
yeah. Anywho, thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Next week we should hopefully have everyone on the show. We'll get your outcome from the Pro Bowl also that's going on this week in Vegas. So there will be a championship there somewhat. But anywho, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And after the Super Bowl, we are switching to all sports. So don't forget to leave that out and check it out. Other than that, thank you for watching.